the CEO of Steamlytics. Let me welcome back to the show, Miss Angela Benton. Welcome.
Hi, Karen. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming back. So, what has changed since your last visit to the Karen Hunter Show?
So the last time I was here, I think I was just introducing the concept of even being able to own your data and like what does that even mean for everyday people and how much money can you make off of it, and a lot has changed. So to give folks some background, my company Streamlytics, what we really do is focus on helping everyday consumers own their data, but then also monetize it. And so I don't know if you guys remember when Andrew Yang was running for president, a lot of his campaign was about this universal basic income, and it should be based off of, your data and all this data that you're generating on a lot of these platforms. Well, a lot of what Andrew preaches is theoretical. What we're doing at Streamlytics is practice, like it's actually in practice. So we actually have a technology that it values your data. It looks at it for fraud, and then we basically pay you for it. And actually, Karen, I just had one of your callers from the last time. We actually just issued him a payout. And I think the conversation that we had before was how much money can you actually really make off your data, which is a fair question. A lot of people, they kind of know their data is valuable because so much money is being made off of it. Like you mentioned, political ads are being ran off of your data. And so at the time, we were just launching the first version, but actually one of your callers, we actually just paid him out. And how I know this because we did a testimonial from him, $525. So from the time he was uploading data from the time I was on last time until recently, and he just had his first payout, and it was $525.
What now? Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Let me pause because I've been talking a lot off mic about Cambridge Analytica, which is on everything. There's no Facebook. Literally, the reason why they're so powerful is because of the data that the billion plus people on Facebook allow for Facebook, and that agreement that y'all all signed off on to use that platform, allow them to use your data, and they leverage that for real dollars that you get nothing for except a lot of ads.
And it's not just Facebook. It's every company that's on the internet. Privacy policies have not changed since the internet has started. So a privacy policy says, okay, you can use our service for free if you provide XYZ, which is your data, your activity data, your demographic data. So every company is doing this right now.
So 866-801-8255. How come we didn't put two and two together? And now that you're actually literally paying people for their data, how does that work? Explain again, Angela, how I download Steamlytics. I put it on. Is it on my browser? Where does it go? How do I integrate it into my Twitter account, my YouTube account, my Instagram, my Facebook,
Sure.
which I don't have?
So the company is Streamlytics. And
Streamlytics.
what we're focused on now is your streaming data. So what you're watching. So I'm sure you guys are familiar. Every other day, it's a streaming service that's launching. Peacock, HBO Max, Disney+. Everybody is launching streaming services now. So we're focusing on that activity to start, really just because it's easier. It's non-invasive. You don't have to worry about anybody getting like detailed personal information about you. And it also helps people really understand, number one, the process of going through getting their data. And really, this is a new concept. So you kind of have to train people that their data is worth something. Because up until now, if you try to sell your data, there's a lot of services that'll pay you $1, $2 for your data. Well, you can't tell me my data is worth $1, $2 if Facebook is an XYZ billion-dollar company. And so was Amazon, and so was Apple, and so was Google. You know what I mean? So what folks can do is download our app for everyday folks. It's called Culture, CLTURE.io. And if you just go to the website, you actually sign up. It's not in the App Store. Don't look for it in the App Store. We developed what's called a progressive web app, and that is because, as most of us all know, Google and Apple particularly are haters. If we put our app in an app store, then that puts us at risk. Everything we're doing is completely legal, but Google's built off of data, and so is Apple. So if they decide, well, this app is helping people get their data and paying them for it, they could easily take us out of the app store. So we have what's called a progressive web app, which is in the browser. It functions like an app on your phone, and you create an account. Once you create an account, we take you through the process of uploading your data from certain services. We're not doing data from social media. The reason why we're not doing data from social media is because even though it's easier to get that data, you can access it through an API. We really want to help people understand the value of your data, period, not just your social media data. So the process does have a little friction to begin with, meaning you have to go through and do a data request. You have to go to Google Takeout, do a data request, and request your data. And you have to see the hundreds of files that they give back to you,
wow.
Which is completely unnecessary and why we need a data privacy law. So we're kind of taking that approach because, you should get paid for your data, but we're also trying to educate people on the importance of having your data, being able to monetize it, and even being able to access it easily.
Forgive me if you told Karen this already the last time you guys spoke, but how were you able to take this from concept to practice? Because that sounds like an uphill battle figuring out. So many guys in the barbershop are like, we should get payouts because they make money off my Facebook and Twitter account. And it always sounds like this cool thing that somebody talks about, but this is the first time I'm hearing of someone figure out a way to put it in practice. How'd you do that?
Well, I've been in the technology industry for almost 20 years, so I'm not, a newbie. I used to be an engineer. My previous business was actually the first accelerator for minorities in Silicon Valley. That was in 2011. We helped entrepreneurs raise over $47 million. So I have a history in the technology industry for, almost a couple of decades. So this was just something that I was able to conceptualize and then put the resources together to actually launch it.
We're talking with Angela Benton. The company is Streamlytics. And where do folk go to download your browser app?
Culture.io, CLTURE.io.
Okay, so it's culture with no U, CLTURE.io, and
Correct.
fill out the information. And I think it's great that folks have to go through the stages to get their data. And I need us to be more conscientious and conscious about what is happening to us. I think we have gotten so anesthetized and so, asleep around just letting people, just hitting that agree without reading the fine print at all. Basically, we're giving away our firstborn, our legacy, our images. And one of the first persons that made me understand this was Nick Cannon when he was on the show. I went to his Instagram page and there was nothing there. He was like, that's my stuff. If I leave it up there, they get to use my stuff. So periodically, he takes all his images off.
So does everybody else. So have you guys heard about Clearview.ai? Clearview has searched 3, possibly more billion images that are publicly available on the web, like on social media sites. And they have an artificial intelligence facial recognition tool that they sell to law enforcement. And I don't know if I talked about this last time, but, facial recognition is not accurate for Black people. Like, if you have darker skin, it's not accurate. And there was just an article in the New York Times where it talked about someone who got arrested, falsely because they used facial recognition, a system like a Clearview.ai, where just random images, were scraped from the internet, or, they tapped into Ring Camera, which is owned by Amazon, by the way. Ring Camera, your face, if you're ringing a doorbell, let's just say you're not even ringing a doorbell. Let's say you're walking past the street or past a house that has Ring installed. It's capturing your images your face, and that's going into a database, and they're selling that to law enforcement.
You know, go ahead, Karen.
No, I'm sorry, Domity. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna, and it's so much I want to unpack there too. You know, given your background in data, AI, and knowing, figuring out how to, you know, get all this data, figuring out how to monetize it. I'm on the website now, and it talks about how when consumers upload the data to the platform, you issue a data license, and then what happens from there? How does the payout actually happen?
So first and foremost, the data license says that you own your data. So like we just talked about the privacy policies, when you're creating an account, it says that, you know, you're basically giving your data away. Our data license says that any data that you upload to our platforms, that it's actually your data. That's how we're able to license it from you, because what we're doing is we're taking all these different data sources, we're creating a new data set and saying this new data set from all your data sources, this is yours, and we'd like to license it from you. So once you actually go through that process, you upload your data. Let's say you have some money, you know, in your account balance. You initiate a payout. Once payouts are initiated, we pay you either through PayPal or Venmo.
How are we accruing money? All right, so I stream about 80 things. Netflix being one of them. Netflix, CBS All Access, Hulu. So, and I had to get Hulu to get that Hillary thing, and I probably have to cancel it. But then Hulu went ahead and put a couple of more things up there that I have to watch, like one thing. So I have these streaming platforms.
Yes.
How I attach Culture, CLTURE.io, to this. How do you calculate how much money I get?
You create an account at Culture, and so you still have to physically go through the process and go to Hulu and submit a data request. And so remember, like I was saying, there's still some effort that you have to put in. Now, mind you, there shouldn't be any effort, okay?
It should be automatic.
This should be automatic, and this is why the law needs to change. And so part of us having people go through this process, which is the reality of the situation, a lot of times we'll have, you know, users saying, why can't I just connect my account? Great. We want you to just connect your account too, so we can just pull the data, but sign this petition or get involved in our advocacy work around getting Congress to actually pass a data privacy law. And so a lot of times people think the two are not related, but honestly, they really are related. So the more you upload data from your activity, and this can be a part of just your personal habit. Maybe you want to say, okay, today I'm going to upload my data from all of my services or 3 of my services every month on the 3rd of the month. Or every Sunday when I do my chores, I'm going to also upload my data. Whenever you upload your data, then we basically look at it and make sure that it's not a duplicate. We check it for fraud. We do some things in the background with algorithm. Then we have a pricing algorithm that values the data. This honestly is part of our secret sauce. And so this is how we get around people saying, well, the value of your data is not that much. Well, we think it is. And so the algorithm that we developed basically says, okay, this is the volume of data that you have from this particular service. Now, let's go look at the stock performance of this company. What's the market capitalization of this company? And we're taking that as well as a few other things, and we're saying we think your data is valued at this, which is generally higher than any other service.
Wow. How have privacy laws affected the business? I mean, we talked a little bit off mic how if you brought this to market any later than you actually did, it might not even exist. It might not be as successful as it is. And how have you been able to keep your eye on what's going on that front? And how can listeners support all of the legislation, all of the laws that we need to support to make sure that this becomes viable as it is, and that our data becomes more readily available to us?
Sure. So part of my previous work with accelerators is I was looking for companies, and I was basically taking companies to investors and sometimes investing in some companies myself. And so when you are operating in that landscape, especially from a technology perspective, you're also looking at market trends and things that are happening in other areas. A lot of times Asia's much more progressive than us here. And you're looking at, okay, so if this works in this market, then the likelihood of it coming to the market that I'm in is, 50%, 90%, or whatever, based on these signals that I'm seeing that's changing in the market. So for me, I actually started working on Streamlytics in 2018. And that's when I formed the company, but it was too early. So we spent about a year of research and development, just building stuff, trying to figure out, clever ways to pull the data. It wasn't until January 1st when California Consumer Protection Act went into play, where we were really able to launch products to the public in this way. And so if you look at, what's happening with GDPR, the United States is actually the largest Western country that does not have a data privacy law. And so that it's coming, you just don't know when it's coming. California having CCPA and having that go into play is actually incredibly important because California is the fifth largest economy in the world. And so for them to say data privacy is important, and by the way, if you have a customer or user that's in California and we're the fifth largest economy, you have to abide by these data privacy laws. That literally applies to majority of companies. And so what companies are doing is they're making blanket changes to their platform, like providing you access to your data.
I have not a question, but I want to take us down a rabbit hole a little bit, because you said something that I did not know, that Amazon owned Ring. So I've been having this conversation for the last couple of weeks about Amazon in particular starting out as a book company, as a bookstore, but not really. It started out as a takeover. Like Bezos understood in publishing, how do I control this? The pricing, right? So I explained this, I think, yesterday. As a publisher, you sell a book to Barnes & Noble Borders at the time. You sell it to them for $10. They sell it for $20. They make $10 profit. Amazon would take that same book that we sold for $10 and sell it for $9.99 and lose a penny. They lost a penny until they put Borders out of business. They lost a penny until the publishers decided to sue them for changing the price, and they lost, the publishers. But that gave Amazon enough power then to control that marketplace, because now we got hooked on the convenience of downloading a book, an ebook, or even getting a book delivered. And that started a whole chain of what else can we deliver to you, to the point where we got hooked on online shopping, right? Amazon, then they turned around and bought Whole Foods. Before he bought Whole Foods, though, he bought the Washington Post. Mm-hmm. And so you got to start watching the moves that Bezos is making in terms of total world domination, because it's not just Alibaba. It's not just I'm buying stuff online. It's I control your data. Now I'm going to put something called Alexa in your home, right? Now you just said Ring. I didn't know. Now we're talking about facial recognition. Guess who else is invested in what? Drones and automated cars and automated, cars that drive themselves. You drive themselves, right? So there's a lot of investment with Amazon. Now they got people, delivering your stuff. When I go shopping now in Whole Foods, I see people who are actually making money shopping for other people. And then COVID hit, and that just blew up. Yeah. And in one day, I think the man made something like $26 billion in one day, and so you look at the vision, and you got to admire it. But talk a little bit, Angela. Talk about the outcome for the consumer, because we got boiled in that pot 1 degree at a time, most of us as consumers, and we didn't realize what was happening. And now we're here. We're cooked.
Yeah, I actually was looking on I have a playlist on YouTube that has all these documentaries about data, and there's a fantastic data. If you just search Amazon, Jeff Bezos data, there is a documentary that talks about Amazon. Amazon is not an e-commerce business. Amazon is a data company, and they say that. He started out with books, but Jeff Bezos was in finance before. He worked at a hedge fund. He was, very detailed in terms of doing research and looking at different data points on how he wanted to sell books, but then also what other verticals that he could go into. And so, you're absolutely right. Like when you download your Amazon data, it's not just what you're buying. It's what you're watching with Amazon Prime Video. It's what you're listening to with Amazon Prime Music. It's Amazon
Audible.
Echo. Yeah, it's Audible. It is what you're buying at Whole Foods in the physical world, not just online. You know what I mean? And it can be very scary for sure, which is also why, we can't really, and I love technology. And so I say this and don't want people to think like I'm anti-technology. I love technology, but big tech companies, we need to have a data privacy law so that we are at least controlling our own data, because what's going to happen is, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the term a technocracy. Well, technocracy is when you have subject matter experts that are running a democracy. And that is basically what's happening right now, because where we all consume media is on social media. It's on YouTube. It's not even TV. It's not networks anymore. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It's on Instagram. And so all of these companies, they now own our data, and some of them have access to it, and we don't even have access to it ourselves.
So the power is in, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say the power is in downloading culture, CLTURE.io, signing up, requesting our data so we can empower ourselves, make some money at the same time, but we have to not just hand it over. That's the power.
We have to not hand it over, and we try to be, diligent in the advocacy work, that we're doing. We started a petition earlier this year around, COVID-19 in Apple and Google teaming up. I think that's what I was talking about last time I was on here. And we had over 16,000 signatures around that. And, another issue is facial recognition. So as we move into, or as our society progresses into this data-driven world, which it's not going to do, like it's happening. Let's all agree it's happening. We can't stop it. But what we can do is let Congress know and let our representatives know, like, hey, I'm not able to get my data from this company, or I feel like I should own my data. And I've written letters to Congress. I've written a letter to the CDC. I've written letters to folks that are on both sides of the aisle. And so it's something that's really, really important. And particularly, and honestly, us as Black folks need to pay more attention to this, because if you look at the global population growth, this is not a number that I am throwing out. This is a number from the World Bank, from the IMF. You can look this up. The population growth is coming from Black and brown people. It's coming from Africa specifically. And then when you take into account the African diaspora, which includes Black Americans, like, we have a lot of power. You know what I mean? And we need to make sure that even though we're growing in numbers, that it's not perceived power, and that there's these other entities or people or organizations that actually can control us through our data.
Such a good point. Streamlytics, the future of data, and I guess it's appropriate to ask, what do you see for the foreseeable future of data? Do you think that this concept of figuring out how to make sure that consumers are compensated for their data will become more widespread across the industry, or will Streamlytics continue to operate as an anomaly and a unique business idea within this landscape? Do you think that this would be more widespread, this concept, or how do you see it, I guess, the future of data analytics and what it is that folks are doing with data ownership?
Sure. I feel like there's a future in data monetization, but for what I'm doing with Streamlytics, I only think of that as a part of what we're doing. What I really like to say that we're doing is we're powering the future of data transactions between consumers and businesses. And so when you think about 20, 30 years from now, and you sharing your data with other companies, other organizations, it's not necessarily just a data file. You're going to need to be able to transfer that electronically. And so we want to be a part of that, that's going to happen in the future. So that's kind of what I see right now. Yes, you do need to own your data. You do need to get paid for your data. But, we are also building a data standard. Our data standard is called the Universal Data Interchange Format, and our delivery mechanism for the data is the UDIF format. And so for us, we feel like we are really building the future of where data is going.
That's that vision we were talking about earlier. And more of us need to have that vision, that 20, 30, 50-year vision, a vision for something that's going to be here after we're gone.
Absolutely. I have kids, and yes, that is exactly how I'm thinking.
Angela Benton, you can follow her on Twitter at ABENTON, Benton, A Benton, and stream Lytics now on the Twitters. And, of course, sign up at culture.io, CLTURE.io. Thank you for coming back. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Karen.